All right, really quick video here on Bumpin Flava. Newest expansion just came out today. I started playing around with a couple of the kits and I thought I'll just do a really quick one, show you some of the sounds on this thing, and then also maybe go through and give you some tips on creating some music with this kind of expansion. So this expansion is all about UK Garage or UKG, and it is early 90s at its best. So if you weren't around for the early 90s or you weren't listening to the music in the early 90s, I was a little too young for that, believe it or not. It doesn't matter because you could still respect the music that was being put out back then. And I love how these expansions are starting to get more and more singled out on a genre. And so I'm going to show you some tips on scales that you can use in Maschine that will maybe get you thinking outside of the box, right? How many of you guys are always using that minor scale or the minor mode for your productions, and maybe the major mode if you're feeling kind of chipper. I don't want you buying expansions that you're not going to use, so hopefully this video clarifies what's in the library and maybe inspires you to start making some music and putting some flavors that are maybe not your typical genre, right? So let's look at this library, see what we got. I'm not getting paid to make this video, but I do have an affiliate link in the description. And so if you click on the affiliate link, I will get a portion of the proceeds. So I really appreciate any of that kind of help. That's how I keep this stuff going. So let's check it out, Bumpin Flava. This library was made by Alex Kidd, and this guy is legit. So we've got the typical sort of amount of loops and kits, 58 battery kits, 53 machine kits, a bunch of presets for Massive and Monarch. I'll show you some of the kits. That's kind of where I always start, and then we'll get onto this little idea. So some really great examples of these kits in action. One thing I recommend doing is if you're kind of new to a genre or you've got an expansion and you don't have a lot of ideas, creativity's not flowing, pull up one of these examples, make sure you have a kit loaded, and then just try playing along. Some of these might be a little too fast for you to do some finger drumming with it, but just do the kick and snare. I think most of them are closer to 130 beats per minute for this genre and for most of the stuff you're going to hear in here. Another thing you could do is load up a loop. Okay, there's a good example. So I'm going to load that loop up. Then I'm going to take the tempo of my song and I'm going to go like way down. You know how swung that is? So getting sort of inside the groove of this kind of music is important too. And again, using the loops for that kind of inspiration is perfect. Nothing wrong with doing that kind of thing and then drumming along with it and then coming up with your own beat that's kind of based on a loop that's already in the genre. So it's kind of like deconstructing stuff. Real benefit of these expansions is the actual learning that you can do at the same time. I'll show you a couple more kits. So you do hear a lot of the 4 on the floor stuff too, so but not necessarily. Some of them do this more back and forth stuff like I dig that one for sure. I think one of my first electronic artists that I ever listened to was Kruder and Dorfmeister. So if you're fans of those guys, those were some of my first CDs that really got me into electronic music of any sort, aside from the Jean-Michel Jarre stuff when I was a kid. So I'll show you this little idea that I've got going. So for this one, I loaded up the Donk kit and just started playing around at the right tempo. So I came up with a beat, something like that, and quantized it because my playing was kind of terrible. So this was the beat that I initially came up with. It's a little bit better than the one I just played, but let's have a listen to that. So after getting that little beat in there, before we add any more percussive stuff, I'm going to add a tonal element. So the next thing I usually check out in these expansions is the sounds, just to see if they've got any multi-sampled things. So you can see in Bumpin Flava, we've got 44 different sounds, a drum synth, a whole bunch of those. And then we've got the instruments. All right, so what I did is I loaded this Precious Keys one up. So I'm just going to load that up again. And this one's kind of neat because it's got reverb on the sound if you hold it down. But if you take your finger off right away, then it's going to cut off the sound based on our ADSR settings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play something along with that. I'm going to change some things up on how I played it. I want one more hit right there. So I want this to change up a little. I want this one to hit with that little rim shot. Maybe one more right there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off this reverb thing when the snare hits, so that this sound's going to cut out. So right on that first hit, which is right about there. Maybe one more hit right there. Oh yeah, that's cool. And then again, cut this out on that snare hit. So it comes in and cuts out exactly when this early kind of syncopated snare thing comes in. And then maybe what we could do is drop this down the octave. Let's see if that sounds any good. So let's go find a bass sound of some sort. And with that, we'll go to the browser and we're going to go to Instruments, and we're going to find the massive patches that come with this expansion. And the easy way to do that on Maschine, I'm just going to go over to Massive. Next thing I'm going to do is go to All Banks, and I'm going to change it to Bumpin Flava. So I go to Bass. Let's try the pressure bass. Okay, so here we can get into a little bit more of the music theory of this stuff. And what I was talking about at the beginning of the video is some interesting scales that might work to change things up for you, whether you're doing this kind of music or not. Using a synth patch like this, which actually has a minor chord in it. I've loaded up a piano. Right now it sounds like I'm playing in the key of F minor. Kind of like an F minor 9, really. And so if I'm doing that, I'm playing an F minor chord, and then I'm going up to this next one, the 3 chord, but I'm making it minor. So we're going into a weird kind of modal territory here with this sample, and this is actually kind of typical in this kind of music. So we got the 1 chord is minor, the 3 chord, which is usually major. In this case, it's minor also, because our sample is just a minor thing. This thing right here, doesn't matter where we put it, it's a minor chord. And then the 4 chord, also minor, which is normal. That's basically what's happening in my little song here. So, and you look at what notes you're actually playing, it's something like this. Weird scale there, but there is a really nice scale that works perfectly over these chords, and that's just the blues scale. So if I go, I could play that over this F minor chord, over the next chord, and then next chord. So if I do that, if I go back to my bass patch now, and then we're going to take this to F, and we're going to keep it on the main, and it's on the blues scale. right, so I got something in there. I'm going to quantize that 50%, just a little bit closer. And then here, let's try doing a little gap. Let's leave that the first kick drum and then the next note. I kind of like this being late. Let's do that both times. That's cool, and we're using the blues scale. So let's go to the browser, and we're gonna go to one shots. Let's try a guitar sound. Let's load that up. Now I'm gonna put it on keyboard mode for a sec. And that's the wrong note, so I'm just gonna take it down. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to sounds, and we're going to see if we can find some other sound to put in here. Yeah, let's try that concept one. So I still got on the blues scale. Oh, this one has a reso chord on it. And then let's put some reverb on there as well. So I've got this sound in the right key, but now what I need to do is go to this reso chord here and find the tuning for this specific key. Watch what happens if I take the tune. Do you hear how that just works now? Crank it up. And it's keeping it in the key of this song. So that reso chord really has to be tuned as well. So the last thing we're going to do, just to spice this up and be a little bit lazy, is just go find some loops that might work. Let's go to percussion, see what they got. It sounds awesome, so let's have a listen to that. Okay, so now what I think I'm going to do is go add another group to this and see if we can find some more fun sounds. Let's try this one right here. So I just found another sound, this concept sound, and again, put in the blues scale, jamming along with it. All right, so some tips playing around with this new expansion. It's a lot of fun. Dig into it, get inspired by the loops, and then go start making your own. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. Hit the subscribe button and the bell, and we'll see you in the next video.